Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and it's going to be my Dragonflight pre-patch Demonology Warlock DPS guide, I guess, slash overview for, well, the pre-patch. And it will be covering covenants, legendaries, new talents, talent combinations, like single target, AoE, all that, some rotational changes, and then maybe a couple other things along the way. So a few things have changed for Demonology. In pre-patch, Decon is gone, pets are more relevant, Nether Portal's been changed a bit. At the same time, Blizzard has clarified that legendaries will indeed be working in the pre-patch unless they overlap with a talent. So for example, Wilfrid's is a talent in Dragonflight and still a legendary effect. So you cannot wear them both. If you do, the talent will override the legendary effect, giving you can't double dip essentially. So that might change things up a bit depending what you want to wear in Mythic Plus and raiding and things for Dragonflight, because Wilfrid's and Grim Inquisitors are both talents. They mentioned tier gear is totally gone, so no more 2-piece, no more 4-piece. Covenant abilities do indeed work in the Shadowlands until the expansion launches, and then Shadowlands is basically no more. So yeah. So with that being said, we'll cover some talent builds, rotational changes, and all of that, and hopefully answer any questions you guys might have about Demonology in pre-patch. Now, a couple things we get too far in the video. Number one, thank you guys a million times for supporting Patreon. I want to thank all my patrons, guys. Thank you for the support. I really appreciate it. If you're looking at supporting on Patreon, there should be a link up here as well as down in the video description below. The Warlock Dragonflight beta spreadsheet is indeed now live on Patreon for early access for those that wanted it. The tier 3 Fellow Guard rank or higher does get that, and the spreadsheet should be going live, like public, in a couple weeks as well when we get closer to actual Dragonflight launch. And number two, the Central Week Award in this video that you've seen here is indeed available for free in the Wago. There's a link to my Discord down below, or just !WA in Twitch chat. I'll pull up the Wago link for you. Just sort by date, and it should be in there for you guys. It might be a little buggy in pre-patch, but it's not really a me thing, I don't think. It's more of a pre-patch, just weird shenanigans kind of thing. So we'll go from there. We'll figure it out. But yeah, that should be it. So with that being said, let's just jump right into the video. Okay, so very briefly, when it comes to Demonology Covenants, not a whole lot's really changing in Dragonflight pre-patch. You basically have Night Fae or Neck Lord as options. There's been some Neck Lord play with Demonbolt and things like that over the past few months. If you're playing that and still want to, Demonbolt gets even better essentially in pre-patch, and you do indeed get Decimating Bolt still, which Unity is still working legendary-wise, so you get the Shard of Annihilation effect, all that. It seems to be pretty solid. If you're playing Night Fae, just say Night Fae, it's fine. Nothing really changes there a whole lot. Venthyr and Kyrian, still pretty subpar. The bigger thing, though, is legendaries when it comes to pre-patch. So we have Grim Inquisitors. We're playing in a lot of settings for Demo right now, but Grim Inquisitors is a talent, which you're taking in basically every build. The same can be said for Wilfrid's, which shares a note with Reign of Tyranny here. Reign of Tyranny is currently pretty undertuned. There might be a couple chances here and there, I guess, spots where you maybe take Reign of Tyranny and play Wilfrid's the legendary effect for, like, bigger tyrant damage and shorter duration, but I don't think it's something worthwhile. We'll see where it goes. But the big thing, that eliminates 2 legendaries. If you count Bale Spiders, which is also a Failed Covenant, that technically eliminates 3 legendaries for Demonology. If you're looking at Synergy being a class ability, that is actually 4 talents all removed from Demonology, or legendaries, you know what I mean? So your real options here legendary-wise are going to be Implosive, or Forces of the Horned Nightmare. We're not looking at any weird ones down here. I don't even think I even have them, actually, which is crazy. So Horned Nightmare, universally just good. It's fine in every setting. Hand the Ghoul you cast everywhere. Just a chance for more imps to come out. I will say, this is also a talent, but chances are pretty low you take this talent. It doesn't have the same value. It's 5 and 10 versus 15. I'm not sure if they even share like a one cancels the other kind of thing out. You don't take this talent really in any build. So you could play either Forces of the Horned Nightmare in like single target or non-IP settings. If you're playing in Mythic Plus or in heavy stat cleave settings, you play IP. IP is good. Insane haste. You can pair it with Wilfrid's and things in pre-patch. So Mythic Plus, I'd assume you're probably just playing Implosive most of the time and just say, hey, if it's single target on a boss or whatever, we just don't get much value. Horned Nightmare, probably your go-to legendary for like Mythic, for like raiding and things, single target fights, places where you can't really get IP value. Now, there's a case to be made for playing maybe just Bale Spiders and foregoing Fell Covenant, or Grim Inquisitors and foregoing this, or foregoing Wilfrid's in this spot here. Those are more technical builds, which need more testing and tuning. We're not going to get into that today. If it emerges, if a build like that comes out, I'll put it down in the comment section. Hey, this is better. But for the most part, I mean, we're looking at just general overall things. It's pre-patched. There's not a whole lot of complicated stuff going on with everything being canceled out. Horned Nightmare and IP, I feel, are probably your best bets looking at most talent builds out there, just for universal relevancy and like really strong cleave, as we know with IP in Mythic Plus. With that being said, let's get into talents. So when it comes to the class tree here, Demonic Circle is indeed fixed again. It's a baseline ability we have the talent into. It was broken for a day or so, but it's back to being just a baseline 1 out of 1 talent, which is nice. So first talent, Burning Rush, Fel Domination, 2 in Demon Skin, 2 in Fel Armor, 1 in Coil, 1 in Curses of Enfeeblement, 1 in Demonic Embrace, Demonic Inspiration, Wrathful Minion, Demonic Fortitude, Sweet Souls, Gateway, and there's some choices you have here. You don't need Sweet Souls, you don't need Gateway, but they're typically the most universally relevant ones you have here. You can forego them and just put it straight up into like Fiendish Stride if you want, but if you forego Gateway, it doesn't get you both Shadow Fury and Dark Accord or Strength of Will. I'm gonna grab Strength of Will here. And if you forego Sack or Sweet Souls, it doesn't get you access to Dark Pact. You have to go through either Teachings of the Satyr or a Desperate Pact. So I opted for both Sweet Souls and Gateway, opening up both rows here, grabbing Frequent Donor. 2 points left here, grabbing Lifeblood. Now, interestingly enough, we have 6 points left here. So I go Soul Link, double Soul Conduit, double Grimoire, and then you have a couple of options here. So you can go into Inquisitor's Gaze or Summon Soulkeeper with your 1 talent point left here. You can go back up into like Fiendish Stride or Banish or Nightmare if you want some kind of utility trait. You can even grab Teachings of the Black Harvest or Fel Synergy. Now, these abilities do some damage. This does like 1% of your damage in a single target. It's pretty bad. This is putrid in AoE. They're both incredibly undertuned right now. If it changes, I'll put it down below in the comment section, like I said, but they're both really bad. They are just another source of damage, though. It is, in the end, more damage if you want it. It's up to you. I've taken Eyeball in most settings. It is worth mentioning, though, that Teachings of the Black Harvest does have some relevancy with Felguard. It's pretty minor, but it does reduce the cooldown of Pursuit by 5 seconds and increases the range by 5 yards. So if you're in Mythic Plus or a setting where he's just charging in every pack, it'll maybe let him charge a little faster and the range is increased. It's very, very minuscule. It's not going to be a gain DPS-wise over this or this, but it's probably worth mentioning for Demo and for Destro and Af, they suck. So I've opted for this build of class talents. And yeah, a point or two can once again be a floater if you want both, you know, Shadow Fury and Banish. Just pull a point out of here, put it in Banish, and yeah. When we're 70, we have 5 more points. It becomes easy to grab Soulburn, grab this, and a couple more points floating around for pretty much whatever you want. Alrighty, so getting into the 3 different builds of Demonology talent-wise for Dragonflight Beta. This is the first one, and this is what I call... It's still basically the big dogs build for Demonology. This is the Mythic Plus build that I would play. This is very similar to the single target pet build, which we'll look at here in a second. The big thing is that you're playing Implosion and you're playing Guillotine. You're also playing Infernal Command, but Guillotine giving you that strong AoE damage profile. Implosion, obviously, 2 or more stacked targets. You want to be imploding for that damage gain. Besides that, we have... From the shadows, Dreadlash, our third dog, Demonic Meteor, Soul Strike instead of Vile Fiend for Cleave due to Antoran Armaments. Obviously, Dread Calling, which is Grim Inquisitor's legendary here. Keep in mind, once again, legendaries like Grim Inquisitors and Dread Calling, if paired together, you'll only get one effect. The talent overrides legendary. So we just said, hey, you know, we're taking this as a talent, and the legendary is just, you know, it's fine, but we don't need to play it. What we do play, though, you are playing Implosion here. And you are not playing Wilfrids. So your main options are really going to be either Wilfrids or Implosive Potential if you're in Mythic Plus. And we haven't really played with Wilfrids and Grim Inquisitors or Implosive and Grim Inquisitors before, but we will be able to do so in pre-patch. So mostly up to you. If you're looking at playing this build in a non-just big Implosive Potential kind of setting, I'd probably just end up playing Wilfrids here. You have your third dog, you have Empowerments from Antoran Armaments, from Infernal Command, Felon Steel. And the interesting thing here is that Felon Steel and Antoran Armaments and other effects that were nerfed on beta last week, I guess in last week's build, weren't nerfed on PTR, but they have indeed pushed hotfixes from what I've heard to Destro and things to PTR. So currently, even with the nerfs coming in, the dogs build should be very good. And plus, this build here. Without the nerfs coming in, this build is even stronger in Mythic Plus. This is where I'd be starting from a Mythic Plus kind of perspective. All right, so looking at this build in combat here, we're playing Implosion, we're playing Guillotine, and we have the third dog, Dreadlash, FTS, just big dog damage profile that we have currently, I guess before pre-patch. Now, we're not playing Grimoire, we're not playing Vile Fiend, we have Soul Strike, which cleaves due to Antoran Armaments, and we have Grim Inquisitors or Dread Calling baseline. I am playing Wilfrids here with this talent build in Mythic Plus. You can play IP if you want as well. Just keep in mind you'll have longer Tyrant cooldowns, up to you. But either way, you still want to Implosion Cycle. If you don't know what an Implosion Cycle is, check my demo guide for 9.2. It's 6 or 9 imps typically. You build into them by casting Demonbolts in hands, and you go from there. Implosion is a DPS gain in 2 or more stacked targets. Now, there's also a bug right now, or an oversight, I don't know how you want to word it, with Guillotine and Demonic Strength. So if your Felguard is spinning from a Demonic Strength and you cast Guillotine, he will cancel the Strength and start guillotining. If you cast a Guillotine first and then try to Demonic Strength, he will not cancel the Guillotine, but it will put Demonic Strength on cooldown and he won't cast it. So Blizz needs to add some kind of like spell queuing to it at some point. I don't know how they want to handle it, but just basically don't overlap them. Do your best. Typically you want to wait for like Demonic Strength and or Guillotine for a Tyrant to be out if possible, because that means more damage. But at the same time, in Mythic Plus, if you're heading from one pack to the next, you can just go, multiple imps into one pack, Dogs, Tyrant, Guillotine, Strength. At the same time, if you don't have a Tyrant, just throw it early on in AoE, because if things are dying fast, you want to get that Guillotine value in, right? So the big thing here, we're playing Grim Inquisitors, or what it's called now is Dread Calling. We still have that big dog damage profile. So Soul Strike Cleaves, let's say we're opening up here, we can just go in, let's say we're heading to a pack with no real resources, we're at 3 shards, whatever, cast a Shadowbolt, cast a Soul Strike, pet goes in, you can cast your dogs here, build the 5 shards, Shadowbolt, we can get hand, Shadowbolt, we can bolt here because we got a proc. We can go hand into a Tyrant. We can trinket here, Tyrant, Soul Rot. Once again, no shards coming in because we're not actually playing Soulbound Tyrant, unfortunately. Throw the Guillotine. Realistically, you want to throw the actual Demonic Strength here first for Felsunder, but it depends what's going on, because at times you might have a Felsunder buff up already due to his Felstorm being cast. So you have to watch that debuff wise. This is Felsunder right here. But the big thing, just make sure you're not stacking them or overlapping them. You don't want one being canceled by the other. And then for the most part, you're casting Soul Strike on cooldown. You're casting dogs like you don't normally would. You're Implosion cycling at 6 or 9 imps. So it's a dog stack. We can implode here. And that's basically it. It's normal demo. You're just working in a Guillotine and working in a Soul Strike when you can. And that's pretty much it. 9 imps. We're casting a Shadowbolt for the final hand to spawn. We're imploding. And that's the gist of it. Now, Guillotine was nerfed recently on beta. It does indeed appear that the nerfs have made it to PTR. Fatal Explosion is here. He does one other ability too, which is not registering here. I'm not sure why. Hopefully it's fixed. If Guillotine's really bad, we'll know at some point. At this current point in time, it seems to be pretty solid, or it was pretty solid. I would assume it's worthwhile based on it being a capstone AoE trait. This build could change and shift a bit based on what happens with that. It was doing a lot of damage on beta. It's not doing as much now on PTR, but pre-patches in a few days. Hopefully tuning hits or they fix bugs, and we'll see. But either way, the gist of the build here, TLDR, Mythic Plus, you implode like you used to, you cast dogs like you used to, you still have Grim Inquisitors, you still have Implosion. Guillotine's a new thing. Don't overlap Guillotine with Demonic Strength. Cast Soul Strike for AoE value, and that's basically it. Play Wilfrid's or IP with this build. You can play IP because you're playing Implosion. IP is Implosive Potential, or Wilfrid's Legendary because you're not playing the actual capstone. And that's the gist of it. Okay, getting into build number 2. This is going to be the more pet-based single target build. The big changes here, no Born of Blood, or no Demonic Knowledge, I should say. No Implosion, no Infernal Command, and no Guillotine. We're not in AoE here. While Infernal Command is good, I do think the Tyrant with Soulbound Tyrant and Reign of Tyranny is a stronger option in single target. We don't need Implosion. There's no really need to go into Born of Blood, because Born of Blood is a conduit still in pre-patch, which means Demonic Knowledge and Born of Blood, I believe will override one another, but the wording on them regardless, it implies they won't stack. They'll just like be 2 individual copies of like a 15% chance on hand to Gul'dan. Either way, we don't need Implosion here. Demonic Knowledge we have 3 dogs, we have a million things going on. We're typically not having many issues trying to get bolt procs at all. I have indeed put 1 point here in Inner Demons, and that's because I need points to access the final row here with 5, but this point could move possibly to, Imp Gang Boss coming through this actual Dread Calling here. It can go into Hounds of War if you want. If you're going to play with Doom, have fun, put it in there too. Yeah, there's some variants here where you might want to put this point, maybe even into Fel Covenant if need be. But the big thing here is that this is a single target build. No Implosion, no Guillotine. There's third dog, just, stat cleave and all that, right? But we're playing Tyrant, Soulbound Tyrant for 5 shards, and we're playing Reign of Tyranny. Now, the big thing here, Reign of Tyranny in Wilfrid's or Grand Warlock's design in Dragonflight do share a talent node here. But the cool thing is that Wilfrid's Legendary is still around in pre-patch, so you can get a little bit of that, decon, now Reign of Tyranny, Wilfred's value before the actual expansion hits, and you get to choose, or just have to choose one or the other. Now, legendary options here are realistically Horn Nightmare. Implosive would be a thing, but we're not imploding. We don't have the talent. So implosive potential is literally dead here. Your legendary options are going to be Horn Nightmare or, well, honestly, really Horn Nightmare or Wilfred's. Bale Spiders. Technically, Bale Spiders is an option because we're not playing the talent, but it's not good without the Bolt build. We're playing this talent. We're not playing Implosion, and we're playing Synergy in the actual class tree. So realistically, with this build, we're just playing Wilfred's. It's Wilfred's Reign of Tyranny, Wilfred's Decon, and not really a whole lot changes. You're a good single target source of damage, 1 minute Tyrant. You're playing Grimoire and Vile Fiend for those damage amps, and that's mostly just it. Alright, so playing the single target build here rotationally, I do want to clarify briefly that yes, you can indeed go into Nether Portal, Ner'zhul's and Gul'dan's to get the Pit Lord and have a point in Tyrant by pulling points out of like Demonic Calling and Inner Demons, all that gets going into here. I don't think it's worth it though. Having like Reign of Tyranny and Wilfred's legendary effect around, I think is a pretty strong synergy to just pass up on. And until we get more points in Dragonflight, as cool as like Pit Lord and everything is, I just don't think it's worthwhile in pre-patch. If it changes, I'll update it. But for the most part, we're looking at this build, the more pet single target based one. So if you want to open up with this build, basically we're going to end up heading up here. Pets on aggressive, cool. So it will be at 3 shards for the bosses pulled. You can start by pre-casting 2 Shadowbolts for a higher Demonic Calling chance proc. We got a bug, that's fine, we'll cast 3 instead. So we're at 5 shards, Grimoire Felguard, summon Vile Fiend, build to 5 here. No calling proc still, it's okay, you can't win them all. Cast Call Dreadstalkers, build back to 5 shards, Shadowbolts, Hand of Gul'dan, Shadowbolt, Hand of Gul'dan, Trinket Potion, Tyrant, Soul Rot, Hand of Gul'dan, and then pop Demonic Strength, and you can just, well, whenever you finish this Spellstorming, and then you can just start filling with Hand of Gul'dans. 3-shard Hand of Gul'dans, cast Dogs on cooldown, and this is basically the gist of it. You just cast Dogs on cooldown, cast 3-shard Hand of Gul'dans, and we are playing Wilfred, so basically every minute or so you'll have, you know, that Tyrant profile coming back around, and you just continue doing that, your Tyrant build up. Now, you are playing Vile Fiend, you are playing Grimoire here, but you're playing Wilfred, so it means you're going to hold every single Vile Fiend for every single Tyrant. There's no like in between Vile Fiend, and every other Tyrant will have a Grimoire in it. So it goes big Tyrant, small Tyrant, big Tyrant, small Tyrant, and that's pretty much the gist of it. Now, Tyrant might not be crushing like he does currently. He's doing about 10% of our damage, but we're going to be able to Tyrant literally in, I don't know, 5 seconds here again. So we can cast our Vile Fiend, start building some actual hands. Shadowbolt hand, hand, bolt, hand, bolt, hand, unless my dog proc, but that's fine. We'll cast our dogs, go into a Tyrant again here. Cast Soul Rot was a fast one. Hand of Gul'dan, then cast a Demonic Strength when it's off CD. And that's the gist of it. Now, while Tyrant might not be doing as much damage as he usually does with, you know, Demonic Consumption and things, Decon's nerfed, it's gone. But having Wilfred's legendary effect with Reign of Tyranny still brings a good bit of damage on a pretty short 1 minute damage profile. He's sitting at roughly 11.5%. Dogs are still chomping. And yeah, so having that strong 1 minute profile, something like this Mythic Plus, maybe with Implosion or Guillotine mixed in, is still a really strong choice. A good one overall. And I expect Demo to be pretty strong in pre-patch still, even with the double dog legendary effect not being a thing. And the third and final build here is the Demonbolt build. Now, I will say this build is sort of the best of both worlds. You get the pet damage amps and, you know, Dreadlash, Third Dog, Bell and Steel, and Torn Armaments and things. You also get Grim Inquisitors, obviously, plus Bell Spider's Burning Core, or renamed to Fell Covenant, Power Siphon, Shadow's Bite, and you can go into Sack Souls here as well with just baseline Tyrant. Now, I've seen different versions of this build playing a full Tyrant tree and no Sack Souls. I think Sack Souls is pretty relevant to have around with all your imps and pets out to empower Demonbolt even more. Plus, you can play Wilfred's with this build to get the Wilfred's effect, essentially. You don't get the 5 shards after Tyrant, but interestingly enough, it almost works out, not in your favor, but it works out in an okay manner. So we're playing Inner Demons here at 1 point. 1 point in Inner Demons still gives you 2 imps out of combat passively. There's still 2 spawning here, even with 1 point in it. 2 points gives you a higher chance to summon a bigger demon. Power Siphon allows you to sacrifice 2 wild imps whenever you want, giving you 2 stacks of Demonic Core. So you can theoretically precast this before the boss is pulled, get 2 stacks of Demonic Core. Your imps are gone, but that's okay, because they're going to come back. And that allows you to fuel a big early initial Tyrant, which gives a larger Sack Souls amp. And depending on when you pop the Power Siphon before the boss is pulled, you can get it back while the imps are still active and extended from the Tyrant for your next Power Siphon, FTS, FTS, I should say, Third Dog, Dreadstalkers, Chomp big Demonbolt window. We'll look at it in combat here in a second. This build looks to be pretty strong in single target. Once again, you can sort of just say, hey, we'll take no sack souls. We won't go in Torrent and just take double Soulbound Tyrant, Wilfrids if you want, and play. I guess you can just play. You can play Rain or Wilfrids, honestly, and either play Wilfrids Legendary if you're playing Rain, or just play Forces of the Horned Nightmare if you're playing Wilfrids here. Which Forces does have some value because it's more imps at times, but I think this build is most likely the strongest, being able to pre-power siphon, building a big tyrant from the get-go, and just getting big Demon Bolt value. So with that being said, let's take a look at them in combat. Alrighty, so if you're looking at the Demonbolt build rotationally, keep in mind we're playing 1 point Inner Demons, which gives us 2 imps passively outside of combat, and we're playing Power Siphon. So there's a unique synergy between these two, where you can theoretically pre-Power Siphon before the boss is pulled, to get 2 instant cast Demon Bolts or Demonic Core procs on pull. So let's say there's a timer up and the boss is being pulled in about 10 seconds here. With about 10 seconds until then, I'll pop Power Siphon, and then both my imps go away, obviously. We have 2 core stacks, and start casting Shadowbolt with about 4 seconds before the boss is pulled. So let's say this is our timer here. So we can go start casting Shadowbolt about now. Shadowbolt, pets on pass, that's okay, we'll go in. So we're casting our dogs here, building back to 5 shards. Hand, bolt, hand, bolt, hand, Tyrant. We can then Soul Rot. We're going to build back to 5 shards with Shadowbolts here because we don't actually have Soulbound Tyrant for the 5 shards. We're going to go here. We can pop our Trinket right about now. Power Siphon, Trinket, Hand of Gul'dan, Dogs, Big Bolt. Bolt. And you want to cast Demonic Strike after your Tyrant too. I just sort of forgot because it's a different keybind. But that works too. It puts up Felsunder. And basically, you live in these Demonbolt dump windows while maintaining Fel Covenant right here. And that's pretty much the gist of it. You can pot with your Demonbolt dumps. And the big thing is that you have these, like, sub half-minute dog / power siphon windows in between each tyrant. You're playing Wilfrids here, so your tyrant's gonna be about a minute long CD-wise. And it makes things, honestly, it flows pretty well. The biggest issue I've seen, even with myself at times, is letting Fel Covenant fall. Because while it seems like you cast a lot of Shadow Bolts playing Demonology, you are swimming in core procs, so you actually cast less than you think in a sense. And it's quite easy for the effect to fall without you really noticing. So we have a tyrant coming up again here. Set it up, basically. We can Tyrant about now. We'll cast our Soul Rot again. We're going to build the 5 shards right here. We can just cast a Bolt. It's fine. Not the end of the world. We're going to have Siphon in about 2 seconds, so we can build again here. Pop that. We can go Siphon, hand one more time. Why not? At 1 imp. Cast our Dogs for FTS and go Bolt. And there are the big bolts once again. And once again, pop Strength after every Tyrant for Felsunder. I'm just not hitting it because I'm forgetting and I'm stupid, but it's fine. And looking at the damage breakdown here, Bolt sitting at about 14%. If you're playing Necrolord, it's going to be a lot more. Keep in mind, once again, that Fel and Steel, and Torrent Armaments, and the Felstorm / Dreadbite effects, like Dreadlash, they have not been nerfed on PTR. This has been nerfed 10% in beta. This is 10%, and this is 10%. But currently on PTR, they're all still fully empowered. So this build on beta, if you're playing a couple of talents, having a bit more damage amps here and there, Demonbolt ends up being your main source of damage or near it. It's not as high here. It still can be pretty high, but your dogs and imps do still dominate. But this build sort of gets you the best of both worlds. You've got Balespider's Burning Core. You've got Grim Inquisitors in the actual legendary effect tier 2. You've got both right here. And you can also play Wilfrids, which is pretty solid. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope the video helped clarify any questions you might have on Demonology in Dragonflight pre-patch, and I guess, yeah, just all that moving forward. Now, it is currently Saturday. Things might change between now and pre-patch launching. If they do, I'll do my best to update the comment section below with, like, hey, this changed, this is better, this is worse. Yeah, pre-patch is going to be sort of a wild ride. I'm excited for it, but just a lot of builds are sort of untested. There's some bugs. I assume some nerfs and buffs coming in, so, I did my best with these guides, and hopefully they help direct you guys into the right direction. But I think for the most part, they're pretty solid. Demo looks good. Demo, like, you still have Reign of Tyranny, Wilfrid. You have, like, the option of playing IP in certain settings. You have Guillotine Implosions. You have Third Dog. The nerfs from beta to, like, Felon Steel and Torrent Armaments and Dreadlash haven't hit PTR. So Demo's still as strong as it was in beta a few weeks ago, before the dog nerfs, before the Felstorm nerfs. So we'll see where it goes, but I think the future is pretty bright for Demo, at least for the next month or so, and then we'll see where Dragonflight tuning goes. So if I missed any builds here, or you guys have any questions, drop them down below in the comment section. I will be sure to get back to you. While you're down there, be sure to smash the like and sub buttons. It helps out a ton. Before we end the video, I want to give one huge shout out to my patrons one more time. Guys, thank you for a million times for support on Patreon. I really, truly appreciate it. If you're looking at supporting on Patreon, should be a link somewhere up here, as well as down in the video description below. With all that being said, thanks for watching, guys. And, yeah, Demo's looking good. I'm excited. Pre-patch is in a few days. Dragonflight's in literally a month. I am so not ready for it, but it's gonna be fun. I'm pumped. So yeah, with that being said, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.